Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2019 career mode, episode number 54 today for the German Grand Prix in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. In that episode, we reached out the maximum Toro Rosso car, so we have no more upgrades to go, and it's basically catch up for every other team now, including the likes of Renault, who are upgrading this weekend, as well as Racing Point, who actually get ahead of Red Bull on the R&D chart. So, very, very peculiar behavior from my former team for the first four races of this season. I thought, they could, try and catch up to Toro Rosso. That was the goal, of course. I was transferred over to Toro Rosso, did a swap deal with Devin Butler to, basically get into a championship winning car, allowing Red Bull to catch up then, where I can thereby switch back to Red Bull then to maybe finish out the season. But it doesn't seem like it's going to really happen at this rate here. Red Bull really floundering in terms of updates. Very, very peculiar. But anyway, nonetheless, we move on then. We're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on ourselves here at Toro Rosso. Obviously, still in this mega fight that just keeps on going left, right, with myself and Leclerc just keep on getting each other in terms of, race by race points over one another. And so right now, going into this one, we lead the championship after that great win at our home Grand Prix. It was a great fight back after poor qualifying in the rain, and there might be some more rain to come for a third race in a row. It looks like there is some rain forecast for the end of Saturday and also during the race, so it might be another mixed up episode for sure. So let's just get into this then and see what we do over one lap on Saturday.
Welcome back to qualifying, where we're waiting for the lights to turn green in the pit lane to signify the start of the session here at the Hockenheim Ring for this weekend's German Grand Prix. In recent seasons, much talk has been made about tyre wear. Some say it gets in the way of the racing, others say it's always been part of the sport. Are we going to see drivers trying to look after their tyres here, or throw caution to the wind and worry about that when it becomes a problem?
Tyre wear is always something you have to consider to a certain degree. Finding a good car balance that suits the circuit will help prolong the life of the tyre, but it's true that some circuits, such as this one, are more challenging than others. How hard you can push them depends on your strategy and how tight the battle is around you.
Alright, so Q1 starts off nice and fine. Saturday's all nice and sunny, so the rain's not going to be with us anytime soon right now, but it will be coming later apparently, so I'm just hoping maybe it can be as late as possible into Q3, but I don't think I'll get that lucky, but we'll just have to finish out this lap and get through the sessions, of course, into Q2 and then hopefully into Q3 as it stands across the line, and we're up into P6 then. Gasly at the moment setting the times there as we go through to the end of the session. Leclerc goes fastest, but the Red Bulls are looking very good, so despite not having upgrades and being overtaken by Racing Point on paper, they're actually looking okay there in second and fourth place. So maybe all that waffle I was talking about them not catching up, maybe they don't need to. Maybe they, obviously, like I've said before, maybe the R&D chart is not telling the full story as it has never done once you get kind of past season one, as it were. So I don't know, we'll have to see how the race pace is for Red Bull as well, because that definitely can change from Saturday to Sunday. But we now go into Q2, and straight away, even though my team let me go out onto soft tyres, the rain's coming down pretty hard there, looking pretty damp out there. As we go into the stadium section, it's a massive lockup, and it's a huge mistake for us. Into the wall we go, in the famous place where Sebastian Vettel lost it in the 2018 German Grand Prix. Here in qualifying Q2, we lose the car, double lockup there. Thankfully, we don't come away with massive damage. We only break the bit of our front wing, and we're able to try and skate the car out of the gravel trap, unlike what happened with Vettel, where he broke his front wing and his tyre a little bit. The tyre, thankfully, on the right-hand side did not indent in. I was very scared about that because it was quite a hefty impact there, but thankfully just a bit of front wing damage, and you can see now just trying to hobble back to the pit lane, letting a car through and drifting through into the pit lane entrance there. So very peculiar. You saw that, I think that Renault was an Inters, but my team let me go out on softs. Like usually it tells you if it's not safe for the dry tyres, the game tells you, are you sure, do you want to change the tyre? It did not tell me that at all. So basically as I drove out, it must have been dry enough, but then as I got through to sector 3, it just started bucketing it down enough for intermediate. So very odd situation there. So that's kind of put us off a little bit and thrown me off my momentum a tad, so we're going to have to go again on the intermediate tyres and try and get through into Q3. Hopefully hasn't dented my confidence too much under braking into that corner, because for sure if you stamp on the brakes and you get that double lockup like that, sometimes that can play on the mind every time you get to that corner, but hopefully won't as we go through this session. Then our second attempt on the intermediate, so this is actually on the same attempt actually. I just kept on going for another consecutive lap there, so that's on the same set of intermediate tyres. We get up to P11, and so that's not good enough to get into Q3, so I have to go again on a brand new set of Inters. I only have 3 Inters for the entire weekend. There is rain forecast for later on in the race, so I'm burning 2/3 of all my Inter's tyres right now in Q2, which is not great, which is why I went for 2 consecutive laps on the first run, but it just wasn't good enough. So we need the fresh set. We need, hopefully, the car and the track to come towards us. We're down in P13 now, sandwiched in between the 2 Mercedes cars. We go through the last sector then. We're hardly getting that much time through the last corner. We do gain about 2 tenths there, just completely through that last traction zone. Across the line, we've gained about nearly maybe 3 tenths there, but it's not enough for us to get through into the top 10 shootout. So we're out of quali, and look at that, Leclerc only just made it into P10 there. So this Toro Rosso, it might be the best car on the grid, might be mighty in the dry, but it is just not that great in the wet. Myself and Leclerc both struggle. Every time we struggle last race, we struggled at Austria as well in qualifying in the wet, and again here, close call. Could have been 2 Toro Rossos out instead of just me, but Leclerc makes it through, so that's a bit of a shame for me in terms of the championship fight. So we have a big fight back on our hands then in the race. And so going into the race, I actually looked at my gearbox there. Thankfully I did spot it. My gearbox was very worn. We're on 65% wear on the gearbox. I didn't want that to get into the region where there could be an issue in the race, so I've decided to swap it out. So that's a 5-place grid penalty, so I'll be starting P17 then, which is not ideal, but it is what it is, and we have to deal with it then on Sunday and just hope for a good comeback. Germany is one of my favourite circuits on the calendar though in this year's game, so I'm looking forward to it. I think we can have a good drive, especially with the straight line speed we know this car has, and I didn't compromise. I didn't have this setup go towards downforce for the wet. I definitely did just a normal dry setup, so we should be pretty good in a straight line. It'll just be about when that rain comes in the race and how bad the car becomes, I guess, in those conditions. Well, let's go to the grid and just see how we do.
There's nowhere at all I'd rather be today than here at Hockenheim for the German Grand Prix. We have an incredibly competitive field this year, which means we should be in for a treat. And judging by the sea of people filling the grandstands, there's a fair-sized chunk of Germany that agrees with me. We're racing in the Rhine Valley this weekend at the home of many of the sport's finest competitors. The 2.8-mile Hockenheim ring requires precision through the technical stadium section and great raw speed down the long, flat-out curve towards the popular overtaking zone of the Turn 6 hairpin. Watch out for a lot of wheel-to-wheel action there today. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about the engineer. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
It's been a really solid year so far. There have been some incredible standout performances, but what's really impressed me has been the consistency. With this kind of form, I'm expecting another great race today.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. A fantastic effort from Pierre Gasly yesterday puts him on pole, edging out Devon Butler, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Verstappen, Weber, Charles Leclerc and Giovinazzi, Perez, Norris, Vettel and Lance Stroll, Hülkenberg, Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas and Ricciardo. Magnussen, Kvyat, the engineer, they've taken a grid penalty, and Roman Grosjean. Russell and Kimi Räikkönen finishes off the grid, and with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
So ironically, I started the episode off slagging off Red Bull, their lack of development, and they ended up getting a 1-2 then in what was a wet qualifying Q3. So just like though the last 2 episodes, I suspect in the dry though they will fall away, just like Mercedes did basically last episode at the British Grand Prix. So in terms of our strategy today, we're starting P17. It's a 1-stop from the mediums to the hard tyres, and of course everyone has a free choice because no one qualified on dry tyres in Q2. So everyone will probably do this strategy of starting on the mediums. I think most of us will be trying to go as long as we can till that rain period, because if we just about stretch the mediums enough, we will hit that inter period, and there's no need for an extra pit stop basically onto another set of slick tyres. So that's going to be the goal for us, and I'm sure all the grid will be trying to do that as well. We're going to underfuel the car as well on top of that to try and get some extra performance at the very start of this race. Of course, we know how efficient the Honda engine is in the back of the Toro Rosso, so no worries there for me as we go now to 5 red lights to the German Grand Prix here in Hockenheim here from P17 on the grid. Lights are out, and it's a poor start from us as per usual, unfortunately, against the AI there. But can we try and go around the outer? The Kvyat there trying to feed the car in, but Kvyat gets the elbows out and pushes us wide, and so some contact there having to take to the escape road, and now we're actually being attacked by Grosjean and the Ferrari. Look at Roman Grosjean go as we're tapped again by Kvyat. On the outside we go the long way around, but we get squeezed into that curb, and we're 3 wide, I think that was momentarily, with Kvyat and Grosjean there. Was never going to work out 3 into that one corner there, but we'd make it work up into P16 thankfully. But 2 close calls with Kvyat there, and also the Ferrari in Haas darting around was not great. And again now, for a third time, we skate around the outside of someone there. Very slow concertina effect there for Magnussen being bunched up behind Hamilton. And we actually make a very lovely, subtle move there on Magnussen that he probably wasn't even expecting. I wasn't expecting it, to be fair, going to the hairpin, but it just kind of worked. I had to take evasive action to pull to the left-hand side of him, otherwise it would have hit his rear end there. So, and it just turned into a move, basically, because he was so slow behind Hamilton. And speaking of Hamilton, the man who was on pole position somehow last race is now here in P14, struggling for pace, and we're going to go on the outside. He squeezes us quite aggressively there, so Hamilton, maybe a no love lost between myself and Hamilton, my former championship rival from last season there, probably just a little bit annoyed that I'm able to breeze past him quite easily in a Toro Rosso, but that's just how things are in Season 3 now of this career mode. And now we're on the back of Dan Ricciardo in the Ferrari, double lock up for us as we get a little bit flummoxed by his early break point there compared to how late I think I can break into that corner just ahead of the Mercedes grandstand. But now can we try and make a move into Sector 3, line up a pass maybe through what is nearly a flat out right-hander in qualifying in the dry, but can we make a move to the stadium section on the brakes? Very confident in comparison to the Q2 brake kerfuffle we had, but alas, can't make the move there as Ricciardo pinches us onto that curb, and it's very awkward because the track's cambered, but the curb's quite flat, so you kind of get almost rotated round by getting a tyre on that curb. So instead, we have to wait until lap number 3 to the inside of turn 1. Easy does it, just ease Ricciardo into the going wide mistake, and we're up into P13, and instead he chops across Hamilton there in the mirrors I could see there as I look behind me, and very aggressively tried to keep that position. And now we catch up to Valtteri Bottas, and the second Mercedes of the afternoon being caught up in a fight between Giovinazzi in the Haas and the Racing Point. I think that is, as we try and make a move now. A great exit there, and the car working supremely in a straight line right now. You can see there, just I wasn't even overtake mode, just high mode on ERS. Worked a treat there to get the Mercedes car. And now we get a great run of Giovinazzi down the inside there of the Italian, the man who took the seat off all the way back in Season 1, the Alfa Romeo, and we're up into P11 now. And now we find ourselves in a big train led by I think that's I can't even actually tell. I literally am that blind. It's tail-ended by Hulkenberg, but I can't quite tell actually who that is. But it's Vettel and Gasly in the middle of it, and it's Verstappen. My bad. So look at that, Gasly, Verstappen side by side. Nearly was 3 wide as Vettel tried to make it through. We had to kind of let off the throttle and make sure that Vettel didn't brake check us there. And Vettel goes for the steaming move to the inside of Verstappen. Vettel and Verstappen make contact there. Vettel with a very clumsy attack there makes contact with the Dutchman. We go to the inside then and try and make a double pass work there. It really was quite a messy like a whole sector there here on lap number 5 there. I had to just dart around left and right. I had to go let off the throttle so many times, hit the brake in the middle of corners so much more than I needed to there, because everyone was just so erratic and I didn't know where to go, just trying to keep my nose clean there. Thankfully we do, and so we're up into P8 now, chasing after our former teammate from earlier on this season, Pierre Gasly, and on lap number 6 here, just trying to set up the move here. A bit of a slingshot here as we go tight on the entry to that corner, get a good run, DRS open there, overtake mode on ERS, and rich mix going. We're going to fly past that Red Bull car up into P7 of this GP then. So 6 laps gone, up into P7, 10 overtakes made. Pretty good progress, I would say. But now we move on to lap number 8, and the rain is starting to come down just ever so slightly here. So getting a little bit of PTSD maybe from Q2. So hopefully we don't have any mistakes majorly in this part of the race now, in that transition from the dry to the wet tyres there. The intermediates not quite yet time for inters. We're still chasing down Lance Stroll and the McLaren of Lando Norris, moving to lap number 9, and it's still going here, and it's still raining, but not too hard actually, so it's still actually got some pretty decent grip in the corners here. Just need to be a little bit careful like that with the lock up on the front right there. It's still a little bit slippery, so just need to watch out for that. But DRS still available, so therefore I think it's safe enough to have DRS, so that's how you know it's definitely not anywhere near time to swipe over to intermediates. And so here we go, look at the straight line speed. We got Stroll squeezes us very aggressively to the right hand side, but we get the move done, keep the foot in there, and we're up into P6 now. We're going to continue on and try and charge after Lando Norris, because once the rain fully is here, we're on intermediate. I'm not too sure how much progress we can make, so I need to try and make the most of this dry period and still keep on pushing as hard as I can. So we're going to try and chase after Norris if we can as we move on to lap number 11. So, you know, we're quite some laps now into this period where the rain's been falling, but it's still not time for inters. So very much like 2012 Brazil almost, where it looks wet, it feels wet, but it's still, you know, good enough for the dry tyres. Very, very odd situation. But we open DRS then on Sector 1, so still, even now, the FI still think it's safe enough, so we'll just, you know, keep to their word here that they think it's safe enough to have the DRS here. And so we're going to try and line up a pass on Lando Norris. Easy does it on the traction there, power down now, flat out overtake mode, DRS open, and rich mix still going on, because obviously the engine we know is so efficient that later on in the intermediate periods, I'm sure we can save the fuel back here in standard mixture once we're on intos. But we make the move on Lando Norris, go aggressively defensive on the inside there just to cover that off, and so we're up into P5. Looks like Devin Butler is ahead of us in P4. I believe Leclerc is maybe in P2 as it stands, with Sergio Perez in P3 and Lucas Weber the one leading the way at his home Grand Prix, remember, the German. So good stuff for him, I guess, in that Renault. But Leclerc doing a good job in P2. So obviously right now I'm going to be losing a decent amount of points, and now I might be losing some more points, as it's a bad mistake for me in these wet conditions. Double lock up into the hairpin there. Thankfully it's not anywhere near the stadium section. There's plenty of runoff in that area of the track to make that mistake and get away with it, but still a mistake nonetheless. You can just see how tricky these conditions are, and actually ironically straight away then on that lap then we're going to be called in for the pit stop onto intermediates. My engineer says it's time to come in. We're going to come in on this lap. I actually think my engineer said to come in on the next lap, but I just ignored him and came in that lap because I thought it was too wet already for the dry tyres. Lando Norris continues on, so I don't know. Hopefully we can try and get an undercut on him potentially. We'll have to see. The AI obviously are very, very, very good on these kind of transitional periods with the traction and stuff like that. A little bit overpowered in my opinion, so I don't know how much of an undercut we could get, but let's just see as we strap on the set of green wall intermediate tyres then. Only 14 laps gone, so we're not even about halfway, well, just under halfway through this Grand Prix, but still a long way to go, and I believe the rain is going to be with us now for the entire rest of the GP, so this may be a bit of a slow burner now for the rest of this Grand Prix. We move on to lap number 16, and Lando Norris is still ahead of us, and instead of catching him, Lance Stroll is catching me, so we're falling away from Norris, and that Racing Point car is looking pretty decent in these wet conditions, or it might just be more me not looking too great at the moment as I try and get into the groove of this car in these conditions. But of course we know that AI are very good in the wet now these days. On lap number 18 you can see very slow into that right hand there, just not got too much confidence I must say into the entry, and on even on the exit as well, a little bit of a tank slapper there, and so Lance Stroll has a great run on the right hand side there. Verstappen is out of the Grand Prix, so whilst his teammate leads the GP, the other Renault Verstappen is out there, so unfortunate stuff there for the French outfit in yellow. But now we're going to try and battle Lance Stroll, try to do some sort of switch back to maybe get on the power earlier, but he just has superior traction there, and so the Racing Point car for now has me for chips, and he's up into P5. We're down to P6. We're going to close up on him in the corners here and stay with him as best we can and try and re-overtake him if we can, but I don't know. I'm not supremely confident. Let's just see. We move on to lap number 19 though, the next lap, and you know what? We have a good run actually, so we could have this. Obviously no DRS, but pure slipstream here, and the car very quick in a straight line still, even without DRS. On the outside this is, and this will have to be a bit of a long way around the outside, but Stroll gets it. And look at that, the amount of understeer I got kind of mid-apex, or even not even mid, like the exit of the apex. I got so much understeer, it was an absolute joke there. So just very baffling stuff there. So we're still in P6 then, and we go on now for 3 more laps onto lap 21 this is, and we're still staring at the back of Lance Stroll here. But now I'm starting to build some confidence. The rain's coming down even more, and we're getting to maybe, I don't know, by the looks of it, it might even be full wet conditions soon enough, but we're actually pressurising Stroll more now in lap 21 than we ever were before in Sector 3. So it's almost like the Racing Point car now no longer is working well when we're getting towards the transition to full wet tyres, and my Toro Rosso is working well once more. So you have a go down the inside maybe to turn 1. No, we thought about it, but thought better of it, but just letting Lance Stroll know we're there in the mirrors, and meanwhile Gasly's also catching up to us, so we need to try and make this move if we want to get away from Pierre, hopefully on this next lap here onto the main straight, just trying to line up this car as best we can, get the power down as early as I dare. Full throttle overtake mode. Rich mix has been going on this entire time, so I don't know why I need to say that over and over again. You guys know it's always going to be on, but here we go now. Fake to right, go to the left, and we're on the outside, and this time round we will get the sail round the outside. Initially Stroll gets it, but look at this, finally gets some good traction. The turn in first gear works out for us. Slam on the throttle, try and squeeze Lance Stroll on the exit there, then go to the racing line, lift off a little bit to give him some room, and we're up into P5 then, and Stroll actually loses so much grip there on the mid-apex that he actually gets overtaken by Gasly straight away there, so that's kind of odd for him. And now the plan will be to hopefully get away from Gasly, who's overtaken Stroll, and even I think Sebastian Vettel's overtaken him in the Williams there behind, but hopefully we can push away from Gasly. The gap is though 13.3 seconds to Norris there, so a massive gap there. No chance of catching really, even if I had lightning pace on these inters. But what happens now on the next few laps, lap 24 then, 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix, is we've got some pit stops here. So a lot of the guys around me don't think they can go all the way on that one set of intermediate, so they all come in, and so we're going to go across the line to lap 25 there, skate through turn 1. As we go through on the apex, there is Lando Norris, and we just about get through on the exit up into P4 of this Grand Prix. So we've jumped Lando Norris, and we're going to go to the end because I think I have the tyre wear to do it. But on to lap 31 then. 3 laps from the end of the Grand Prix. So far, it's been going amazing. The last 7 laps have been great. I've been managing the pace, keeping Norris at bay, and the tyre wear hasn't been too bad. We're getting to about 50% on the rear ends there, but still not too bad. There's nowhere near puncture region, but now we're getting to a period where you can look on the bottom right-hand side. My engineer asked me, do I want to come into full wet tyres on this lap? Because the rain now is so heavy and the standing water is so large that we're able to go into full wet if we wanted to, but we're so near to the end of the Grand Prix, there's no point to. But because of this, Norris just becomes so OP now on the traction there, gets some great speed there, even with me on overtake mode and rich mix. I just can't do anything about it. Into the brake zone we go deep. It's a lock-up from us. It's a mistake again, and it's deja vu as Norris undercuts us on that racing line and gets up into P4. So we gave it a good old stab. You know, I was in P5 already, tried to get up into P4 by not making that extra pit stop. Worked out for about 7 laps, but then here with 3 laps to go in the Grand Prix, unfortunately got overtaken by Lando Norris in the end. But like I said, we're already in P5, so I don't feel like we lost anything. We just didn't gain the kind of risk I tried there. And so we go through to the end of the Grand Prix, struggle through in the full wet conditions on the intermediates, and come through for P5 in this GP. It's been Lucas Weber that wins it, Leclerc in 2nd place, and Devin Butler in 3rd place then. So with Leclerc in 2nd place, myself in 5th, a pretty damn awesome recovery, I would say, from P17 and the wet conditions, in my opinion. And so the championship gap, unfortunately, does flip the other way around. Leclerc gets enough points, so he's going to be 2 points ahead of us now in the championship, if that is, the next thing didn't happen. So, a little insight how I record these videos. Usually, I finish the race and I stop recording. Then I will go into the replay cameras and click record and record certain replay cameras when I want them, you know, thinking about cinematic shots to edit into the videos, and that's how usually I do things. But on this occasion, I clicked stop recording, and I thought, oh, I'll go for a little drink, grab some water, come back, and then I'll start recording the replay cameras. In the half a minute I, spent going out of my room to go get some water to come back, the game crashed, and basically I lost that entire race save. Like, I had the recording, thankfully, so I have proof that I did this entire race, because obviously that's what you guys have just seen today in this video, is I actually did that entire race. Click stop recording, but then as I came back, it just crashed my game, and unfortunately the game doesn't save the race once you finish the race. It saves it after you've gone from the race results to the, back to the paddock, essentially. So I lost that entire race, unfortunately. So yeah, very, very annoying stuff after what was, like I said, a very entertaining and great comeback drive for myself. So I had to end up redoing the race in terms of I just had to start the race again and click retire, because I'm not going to go ahead and record the entire race over again, because like I said, I actually was able to still have the footage from that original race, which, like I said, was a great race, a really entertaining one in my opinion, and I'm not going to, just scrap that one because the game's failed me, basically. But thankfully, by retiring the car, the podium wasn't the exact same. In the end, Sergio Perez, I think, was the one that won the Grand Prix, but Leclerc actually came in P5, and I obviously DNF'd. I had no points, so that actually ended up being near enough, as near as we're going to get on what the standings were after that kind of alternative ending, because now Leclerc is now 4 points ahead of me instead of 2. So if anything, Leclerc's gained more points on me than I've done, so I haven't gained an advantage of retiring from that Grand Prix. He's gained 2 points, but that's as close as we're going to get, really. So hope you guys can kind of, accept that, I guess. It's the first time the game's crashed on me like that ever since it came out, so that was a bit unfortunate, but, those things happen. Obviously, other creators like Tom97's had that so many times, so I'm actually quite thankful that it's never happened to me too many times, or ever, really, until today. So, yeah, that's how it is. In the end, though, it's still the same effect, basically, of that race. You guys still got to watch the race I did, and it's the same effect in the championship. Leclerc gets the lead, instead now by 4 points, not 2. But, guys, if you still did enjoy the race you did watch, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are around here to try for weekly full-on content, I've been aarava. Hope you enjoyed today. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.